guys, so feeling a little bit deviant today, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring up the council. Now the rates on the on this property vary. They're roughly $1,600 to $1,800 a year. Now my issue is that what I need to know from them is what, I mean, how does it compile, how are the rates assessed, an individual breakdown if possible, and yeah, well perhaps not an individual breakdown because I just want to take it from a general inquiry at the moment, but I'm just curious as to, as this property has its own water supply in, and it has a septic tank which is paid privately to empty, what do the water rates cover? That's what I'm wondering. So we'll see.
Welcome to Auckland Council. Please select one of the following 4 options. If you know the 6-digit extension number of the person you wish to speak to, please dial it now. For Auckland transport-related inquiries, including parking infringements, road maintenance, street lighting and signage, please press 1. For rates-related inquiries, please press 2. For any other inquiry, please hold. Welcome to Auckland Council Rates Line. You're speaking to Tracey.
G'day Tracy, how are you today?
Oh, good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. So I'm just hoping you can help me out with a general inquiry, if you could please. My mother-in-law owns a property in Waimaku area.
Right.
And her rates I think roughly are $1,600-$1,800. And what we kind of don't get the grasp of is the water segment of that. How do we find out what a breakdown of the rates are as to where it all goes? Some sort of invoice or statement for where the money actually goes, and secondly the water section of it. How does that apply, considering she has her own incoming and outgoing water supply which is paid for privately and the council has nothing to do with?
Well, in regards to for any property, the water rates are separate from the land rates. They are dealt with by water care.
Okay,
so I wouldn't be able to give you any information about that.
So the property rates have not got water included at all?
No.
I could have sworn I read something in regards to the water segment of her last rates, that there was a segment of her, a percentage.
What's her property address?
I'd rather not give that information, just keep it anonymous at the moment, but I'm curious to the point that if you know, she's being charged for septic or incoming water, if she has her own water, how can she be charged for something that's not supplied, I suppose, is what I'm getting at. And is the septic part of the water rate, or part of the property rates, is this septic waste?
Let me just...
Because, I mean, if obviously, I mean, if the council's charging her for waste, you know, for septic sort of things, then, I mean, when she gets her tank emptied, she can just forward the invoice to the council if she's paying you guys to do it. So
I'm just loading up just a random property in the western area here.
Cool. It's just it's her information. I'm sure you can appreciate under the Privacy Act 1993 it wouldn't be good for me to give her details out.
Certainly. Just the same as we wouldn't give you her details from our end.
Sure. It's just a general inquiry.
A uniform annual general charge, which is a fixed charge for a separately used part of a property. So if there were 2 dwellings on the property, she'd be paying 2 of them. But if there's just one, she's paying the 1 charge. The general rate, there are different general rates depending on it. If she's
could be urban residential or possibly...
I know she has rural postal charge. She pays rural delivery on that, so we can go by rural.
Yep. All properties this year have got a targeted rate of the transport levy, so that's a fixed charge as well for each separately used part of the property again.
I don't understand what do you mean by separately used part of the property? So if it's just one property, say an acre section with one dwelling on it,
then it would just be one
okay.
charge. So the charge of the transport levy is $113.85.
Okay, so what does the transport levy have to do with water?
Oh, this was a breakdown of the land.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, carry on.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And then some parts of the city of Auckland have other targeted rates specific for the area.
Sure. So she's paying for the roads as part of it would be the land transport thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Because the roads just got redone last year, I believe.
And then there is also a waste management rate, which is the rubbish recycling and then
Sure.
like general litter collection around the area as well.
How does that work, considering she pays for the bags individually, and the understanding is that the bag that you're paying for comes with the collection cost included? Do you know what I mean? If you get what I mean, if she's, say, if she gets one of those green Rodney District Council bags that cost I think $2 at Back and Save, well, she's paid for the bag and for the collection of it. When she's paid for the bag, it's prepaid to be collected. In the old days, they used to have stickers that you'd buy individually and put on the bags.
Is she at Rodney or is she in West Auckland?
Rodney.
The Rodney area is the one area that the council doesn't actually have a rubbish collection. So
Oh,
if
okay.
she's paying for bags, that's a private company that do that collection.
Sure. Okay, so the waste and rubbish collection wouldn't be part of her rates then?
No, it still would, because it's covering the recycling collection and also just general litter around Rodney, so where the public rubbish bins are.
So
Rates are helping to fund the
okay, so she's paying for the people with the sticks to go and pick up the rubbish. That's part of her rates goes to that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Now that is...
She's going to love to know all this info, because I told her I'm sure you guys would know where it all goes. It's just a matter of asking. She's just a little bit too shy to ask, I suppose. I, however, have no problem asking anything, so...
Fair enough. So yeah, and if she's concerned about her waste management rate compared to other properties in Auckland, each area in Auckland have a different rate depending on what they receive. So because the Rodney properties don't get that rubbish amount, their targeted rate is slightly smaller than everyone else in Auckland.
Cool.
Now those sections are the only ones that are in the land rates. There's nothing to do with water or septic that we charge for in the rates.
Oh, wow. So, but like if, say for instance, like I've got a few mates that live up in Helensville way, I mean they pay for their separate water rates, so that's basically what you're saying, the land and the water has been separated.
Yes, that's right.
Had it ever been combined at any point?
I don't know.
Trick
as
question,
far
maybe.
as I'm aware, it hasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, before it was the whole Auckland Council, it may have been, but that's information I don't know.
Wow, so if she was to move into town, for instance, into central Auckland, for instance, she'd be paying for a separate water rates cost as well. So she'd not only have the land rates of, say, 1,800 a year, she'd also have water bill on top. But then, I mean, suppose she pays for the water that goes into the big holding tank that she has anyway, so I suppose it's all relevant.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would be an idea just to give Watercare a call to see if there is any other rates that they have.
Well, there's no meters, and as far as I'm... So you mean, what, Watercare might have something slapped in on the property rates?
No, they've got nothing...
Because I know she has no dealings with Watercare whatsoever, so yeah.
So yeah, she's not making any other payments for any kind of rate.
No, it's just the property rates.
Okay, so she's not paying for any water anywhere.
Well, that's good, because yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a misconception from either myself or herself from many years ago, that it was all combined and one rule fits all. And it's interesting that you say, you know, for every property, and yet how can every property be in the same boat? Surely it's held on an individual basis or a case-by-case point, you know? I don't see how one rule fits all, but then who's who's supposed to understand legislation?
Yeah.
It's a different language, for Christ's sake. But yeah. No, that's cool. Hey, on a side note, I've had a few emails to and fro with the dog control part of Auckland Council. Mm-hmm. Now, what I've basically been asking them is that do myself, a man, have to register my property as a dog? Now, they're telling me that if I'm a person living in Auckland, that I'm obliged to register my dog. My question being, though, is that they couldn't define what type of person I am. Now, legally speaking, there's 5 different types. So, and as I clearly stated in my question, do I, a man, have to register my property, and property being that which is exclusive to me? So the dog is mine, I look after it, I bought it, I pay for it, I do all the, to me the council's got no tangible asset in my property, be the dog, and unless it's registered. And as far as I'm aware, once you register the dog, then the council has some sort of legal authority over it, correct?
Even if the dog was unregistered, the dog control officers do have powers to impound unregistered dogs.
I've got the power!
Where do they derive those powers from if it's unregistered?
I've got the power!
Because...
let me bring up the actual name.
Because, I mean, I've got the Dog Control Act and I've looked through that, but again, that only applies to persons, not to me. And, I got a few emails back from the senior dog control officer there saying that, if they got a noise complaint or the dog was found roaming or something like that, then they would have the power to confiscate it or whatever. My point would be that the dog would never leave the property. It's quiet, so there'd never ever be a noise complaint. So what else can they do? They don't have they've got no implied access to come onto the property because that's been removed. So I don't quite get it.
It's so it says under section 42 of the Dog Control Act.
Yeah.
One, every person commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding $3,000 who is the owner of a dog of a greater age than 3 months unless the dog is registered under this act for the current registration year. 2. If a territorial authority has reasonable grounds to believe that a person has failed to comply with subsection 1, a dog control officer or dog ranger may a. Seize and impound a dog, and b. For the purposes of paragraph a. Enter, at any reasonable time, any land or premises, except a dwelling house, occupied by the owner of the dog. 3. This section does not apply to any person operating a pound or facility, or having custody of an unregistered dog for the purposes of a. Impounding the dog under this act, or b. Confining the dog in a transitional facility or containment facility approved under Section 39 of the Biosecurity Act 1993, or c. Keeping the dog in the custody of a society established to prevent cruelty to animals pending the dog's I. Recovery by its owner, or 2. Disposal to a new owner. 4. However, a. A person to whom subsection 3, a. applies must not dispose of a dog other than in accordance with section 69a, and b. A person to whom subsection 3, b, or subsection 3, c, applies must not dispose of a dog, other than by destroying it, unless the dog is first registered under this act.
power
I've got the power.
to enter land and premises to seize and impound unregistered dogs.
Okay, so how would they know to come? I mean, what I'm getting is, how would they know where the dog is if there's no complaint, or it's not found wandering?
I wouldn't know. I mean, they...
So I guess the point is, unless they find a wandering dog, or they have a complaint about a dog, they can't just come wandering on your property for shits and giggles, on the thinks that you might have one. There has to be a formal complaint lodged, I would think, for them to act upon it. If you follow my point?
I do see what you're saying.
Because, I mean, he used a lot of threat and intimidation in his language, saying that he'd take us to court and, you know, and that would be fine if I was a fear-based person, but I don't live in fear. And as far as I'm concerned, the man I was emailing to is equal, just as I am. And he wouldn't put anything in writing and sign it to claim that he had some authority over my property. So unless it's registered, my question is, where do you derive the authority to tell me what I can and can't do?
I mean, that bit is specifically in the Dog Control Act.
Yeah, but it only applies to persons, you're aware, eh? And under the Interpretations Act 1999, Section 29, it states a person is a body corporate, unincorporated body or corporation soul.
Humans are word control creatures.
Person includes a corporation soul, a body corporate, and an unincorporated body.
And I'm pretty sure I'm a man. I'm none of those corporations. So, and I mean, if you go and look up the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, Section 29, it states there's also a legal person and a natural person.
So we need to establish what words mean.
Section 29. Application to legal persons. Except where the provisions of this Bill of Rights otherwise provide, the provisions of this Bill of Rights apply, so far as practicable, for the benefit of all legal persons as well as for the benefit of all natural persons.
All of which are just personas that, as a man, I can represent through. But I'm not that. I'm not a name. I'm a man.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not using my person, and I haven't registered my property as a dog, where does the authority... I mean, you're saying they have powers, and granted, I mean, when I was a kid, I walked around with a badge, and I had funny costumes, and I thought I had all the power in the world to do things, but then I grew up. But unfortunately, these guys tend to walk around with this false sense of authority. If we're all equal before the law, where do they derive it from? If I haven't registered my property, where do they derive the authority to come and take my stuff? If you get what I'm saying, I mean...
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the full act myself, and
yeah, but it's only in
the wording of everything to understand which way things...
I mean, if you're not legally trained, it's like I say, it's a different language. I'm not legally trained either, but I've spent 4 years studying legal dictionaries and law, so I guess I kind of have a grasp of how we're all controlled in some fashion. But like he says, you know, if I'm in Auckland, well, I'm in my body. If you're in something, you're controlled by what derives that thing. So, you know, if I hurt myself, I'm controlled by it, but I'm not in Auckland, I'm on it.
Right.
So the smallest words are the most defining, correct?
Yeah.
So, this is...
In regards to that, that's something I'm not going to be able to help you with.
It's probably food for thought.
The wording of things.
Yeah, well, that's how we're all controlled, is it not? Through pieces of paper and words on them? That's where these guys believe they have authority. Like you say, there's an act, Dog Control Act. Okay, so their interpretations of those words, they're then believing they have an authority to come and steal my stuff?
Well, I mean, that's something I can't answer.
Yeah, well, you get what I mean, though. If it's not registered, they have no legal authority to touch it. And
the way I understand our processes is that dogs need to be registered.
Yeah, it says must, but must in a directional sense is only a may. So I'm not. No one's holding a gun to my head and saying I have to do anything. So must, legally speaking, is just means may. I've actually looked that one up.
Yeah.
Because must and shall are two really good words they use in legislation a lot.
Yeah.
You know, shall is a future tense word. I shall do that in the future, but right now I'm not doing anything wrong. So, do you know what I mean? So
Yeah. So if you're looking at that and saying, well, then, you know, they're not saying that you have to register your dog.
yeah, well, I'm not a you.
No.
That's the other thing. I'm not because a you is a word. You is a legal sense is a plural. That's combining the flesh and blood man with the name or the person or the persona that we represent through. So if I say I'm just me, myself, and I, can you please identify who this you character is? And I'm not confessing to being anything other than a man. Where does anybody else derive their authority over me if we're all equal before the law as such? Do you get? I really drive cops up the wall when they try pulling me over. But it's, to me, gaining authority is the key thing. And as last time I checked, I have supreme authority over myself and everything I have. So for someone else to tell me that I have to register my property, be it a dog, a vehicle, a firearm, a child, it's all my property, it's all stuff that I made, then where does that come from? And if once you get rid of that belief that a piece of paper says you have to, well, a piece of paper don't speak. That's why it's stationary. So I'm just trying to, perhaps I'm trying to grasp the concept of having a belief that a piece of paper gives someone authority, but I don't. So is there a man or a woman that, on behalf of the council, that's willing to take full commercial liability that I have to register anything? How's that for a question? Because I just want some reverse liability. I mean, I'd be happy to register my property as a dog if someone wants to take reverse liability and put their name on a bit of paper and say that I have to.
Right.
Would that work? It's called a conditional acceptance. I'm not refusing to register anything. I'm conditionally accepting it, pending that there's evidence that I must.
Yeah. I mean, if you've already sent through an email...
Oh yeah, I have, and we exhausted all avenues on that. He's failed to respond to me.
Yeah.
Andrew Metcalf, I think his name was, at the Auckland Council, and he made all these threats of coming and taking the dog, and which I found really interesting, considering I'd never given him my details or location. So that threat sort of went out the window. Yeah, and I don't think anyone's ever been taken to court for an unregistered dog, have they? Do you know any case law where that may have happened, where I can go and research it? Much like, you know, if you have to pay tax, I rang up the tax department and asked them if I was obliged to. They can't produce any evidence that anyone has to pay income tax because you declare it.
Yeah,
You're freely declare.
Any cases, but that's not something that in my job remit.
No.
Need to know. So.
No, but you know what I mean. If there's some law saying it and there's case law stating it, then I'd be happy to accept that. But
Yeah.
if they can't produce it, then onus is on the person making the claim. And if the council's claiming I have to do something, I'd like to see where they derive the authority to make that claim in the first place. If that makes some sort of sense at all. It's just simple logic to me. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of like building a house. People say you have to have a thing called a permit to build a house. Well, if I still build a house without a permit, does the house still stand?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Exactly, because I live in reality.
They put all these things in place because there's people out there that aren't going to do things properly.
No, fair enough. There's a lot of idiots out there that don't do things to a correct standard, and I can appreciate that, but I'm not one of those idiots. And I'm standing in a house that I've built 20 years ago without any permission from anybody, and it still stands.
Then you end up, you know, if you say, well, that's fine, if that person knows how to do things properly, then and that's cool. And then the idiot over the other side says, well, hang on a minute, why are you making me follow rules and not the other person?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. If he believes he has to follow a rule, then he's welcome to. I believe that I'm not bound by any rule unless there's some sort of contractual obligation with my signature on it. Like, for instance, my driver's license. You know, I signed up for my driver's license, so now my person is obliged to adhere to the Land Transport Act because my license is an agreement. But when that expires, that'll be interesting, won't it? Because how are they going to give me a speeding ticket if there's no contract for them to enforce upon me?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Perhaps you've not had a phone call like this before, Tracey.
Not at all.
Sorry, I tend to let people. I tend to make people think, and you end up with a sore head the night afterwards. My wife calls it farquaring. It's called force feeding information. You've been a doll, Tracey. You really have. Okay, so yeah, you can see my point, but I can understand that in your position that you're acting as right now, you can't really say anything. So we'll leave it at that. You've answered my questions for the council and the water though, and I will certainly let my mother-in-law know as far as that she's not paying any water rates and to get that one out of her head. I appreciate that. That's really helped. But yeah, food for thought, Tracey. Just
Absolutely.
you know, just look. I mean, all I've ever done is just looked up the words. You know, if someone says I have to do something, I just don't blindly obey. I just question everything. And you know, the last cop that gave me a speeding ticket, I had him in court for almost 4 hours under cross-examination. He was just regretting ever pulling me over. And it was well worth the $200 worth of speeding ticket, because most people most people throw themselves with an airplane for a couple of hundred for an adrenaline rush. You know, I was challenging the authority and having a hell of a fun time doing it, because there's no fear.
I guess so.
You know, when you lose the fear, there's nothing but fun to have, and then you get to enjoy life.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Tracey, you've been fantastic. I totally appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, have a good day, eh?
You too.
Bye-bye.